Hello, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about strength and flexibility. And by that, I'm referring to our physical strength and our physical flexibility. I'm not referring to mental strength or to mental agility, although I think those two elements are also key to our overall health. Strength and flexibility are very important to us, and perhaps even more so as we age. They're key elements to us maintaining our independence. I do some rather basic movements and strength training to try and keep me in shape. But remember, I'm certainly not an expert. I'm not qualified to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't be doing. That's really up to you to do your research and to find out. And always to listen to your body. Don't do anything that's going to stress you or strain you in any way. My intention would be simply to motivate you to perhaps try some flexibility exercises and strength training for yourself. Do your own research, find out what works for you. Most of us, when we're young, we tend to have natural flexibility and muscle tone without even giving it much thought. I guess when we're young, we are more active, we're more likely to be playing sport, and we take those things for granted. We don't even realize how capable we are of performing everyday tasks, just simply getting up and down, carrying things. We might be moving house, we just carry the boxes. The next day we might feel that we've used muscles we didn't know we had, but before we know it, that feeling is past and we're ready for the next activity. I can remember when I was younger, I participated in some fun runs, and it was very easy to go and run 8Ks, albeit slowly, but I could do 8 kilometers without any training, which was a real privilege that I never understood at the time. And the same is probably true for many of us when it comes to our weight. When we're young, we could pretty much eat whatever we like and we don't put on too much weight. But as we age, we start to see weight creeps up and activity levels tend to drop. Just the everyday demands of life mean that we're less focused on activities. You get a job, you have a family, you have responsibilities, and exercise goes out of the window. These days, we also spend way too much time sitting in front of the television at night or during the day. Many of us are office bound, myself included. I spend way too much time sitting in front of a computer. And as the years go by, we don't realize the negative impact that has on our flexibility and our muscle tone. I don't sit very well, my posture's not good, and it's all things that I've become aware of as I've got older, but I'm yet to work on most of it. So as we get older, many of us are carrying extra weight. I certainly am. We're not exercising at the optimum levels. I look around at many of the people that I see in the supermarkets or on the street, and I'm amazed at how mobility is already impaired for relatively young people. Now, there are some people that have genuine ailments and disabilities, and for them, I have utmost respect and sympathy. But many of us, I think, have just done that to ourselves. It's because we haven't looked after our bodies. That's our responsibility. We have to take ownership for that. Contrary to popular belief, metabolism doesn't really slow much through most of our lives. It only seems to change substantially when we hit about 60 years of age. What does happen is our activity levels go down, and we tend to see maybe a kilogram here, a kilogram there over the winter. It's not too much. We quickly adjust to it, we get used to it. But before you know it, 10, 15 years have passed, and that 1 or 2 kilograms has become more than 10 kilograms. And that's when it becomes a challenge to get rid of. So, what should we be doing about our deterioration that comes with age? Well, the bad news is we can't stop ourselves aging. What we can do, though, is we can take responsibility for how we let ourselves age. And again, it depends on whether you actually have good health or not. I'm absolutely blessed to have good health, and I want to keep that for as long as I can. And as I said, maintain your muscle tone, get your weight down, be flexible, and that leads to continued independence as you get into your old age. Muscle mass is something that starts to decline probably from our early 30s, but by the time you hit 60, that's when it really speeds up, and that's when it becomes very important to actively maintain your muscle mass. And that can be done by doing resistance training, so something with weights. I have some light weights, maybe those exercise bands that people use, and even walking and running are good forms of exercise that will help maintain muscle mass. Any loss of muscle mass tends to affect our mobility and our balance. We sometimes think that our balance is impaired because we're old, but the opposite is probably true. Our balance is impaired because we no longer have the muscles to support the joints and our movements. So it's another issue that we need to be addressing. You don't need fancy equipment, although if you have access to a gym, that's obviously a plus. But if you just have your own lounge or dining room with some very basic exercise equipment and a bit of space maybe so that you can get down on the floor, that's probably more than enough to maintain your fitness at a basic level. An added benefit of having good muscle tone is it means we burn more calories when we're at rest. That's called the basal metabolic rate. So when we're doing nothing, our bodies are still burning more calories with muscle than if we didn't have good muscle tone. The general guideline from the NHS is that we should be doing 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise on a weekly basis. To clarify, their definition of moderate intensity is you should be able to talk while you're doing the activity, but not sing. Well, that's fine. I can't even sing when I'm on the couch, so that's easy. So moderate intensity activity would include a brisk walk or a relatively gentle cycle. Resistance activities should be part of the 150 minutes of exercise that we do on a weekly basis, although it doesn't seem to specify exactly how much the resistance training should form of that 150 minutes. Something else that we should consider is our protein intake. As we get older, we need an additional amount of protein to help rebuild muscles. Many of us kind of assume that we get enough protein in our daily diet, but it's worth having a look at what you're actually eating and making sure that you are having enough protein, especially if you start increasing your exercise levels and you start doing some weights. The protein is an essential part of your diet to help you develop. Apparently, vitamin D is something else that we should be thinking about. I always thought that that was the feel-good vitamin that you have in the winter when there's no sun. The vitamin D helps make you feel better. But apparently it also helps to regulate calcium and phosphate in our bodies, and that's important for maintaining healthy bones, teeth, and muscles. As I mentioned, I sit way too much because of my job and because I tend to sit too much in front of the television. So the 150 minutes of exercise a week certainly can help to counter the effects of that sitting. And it will help me strengthen my muscles in my back and help me with my posture too. Thanks to the internet and social media, there's tons of information out there, and you can search on anything, any muscle type, any muscle group, any area where you're experiencing pain, and there'll be 100 videos or 100 reels that you can have a look through and see what works for you. There's loads of experts or people who claim to be experts that are very happy to tell you what you should be doing and why you're doing something wrong. And I'm sure if they look at my video, there's lots of things I'm doing wrong. But at least I'm off the couch and I'm trying to get active, and I am looking at the social media, and I am adapting my exercises regularly to try and improve. So flexibility is something else that we tend to lose as we get older. I guess we live our lives and we do the same things every day. We get up, we go to work, we sit at a desk, we come home, we cook dinner, clean the house, sit in front of the TV, and our muscles get very used to, and our joints get very used to performing the same movements time after time, very repetitive. But when we think about the complexity of some of our joints, you think of a shoulder, for instance, the movement that is in a shoulder, there's much more that we can be doing with our shoulders and should be doing with our shoulders and our other joints to make sure that we keep them flexible. So when I'm doing my stretching, I try and think of the major joints in the body, and I try and focus on each of those areas to make sure that I'm stretching and flexing them. And I have a long way to go. So I started to become aware of my own general lack of fitness and lack of muscle tone when I started this journey to reduce my blood pressure and to reduce weight. And I think I've made fairly good progress in terms of consistently doing some exercise, not every day, but often through the week. I can sometimes find a few minutes here and there where I'll do some stretching, or I can do some light weights. I have some weights here in my house that I can just pick up and grab while the kettle's boiling, or whatever the case may be. I have also been focusing on my diet, as many of you will know. My weight has been coming down. I started at around 89 kilograms, almost 89, and I'm down into the 82s. My weight loss seems to have slowed. I do cheat now and again, maybe too often, but I am moving in the right direction, and I am staying very aware of my weight, which is a step forward. My blood pressure is stable and it's at the right levels now, but I am still taking medication, which is something that I want to get off of in the longer term. So that's still a focus for me. So after several weeks of fairly regular stretching and resistance exercises, I no longer automatically flop down in front of the TV now in the evenings. Instead, I'll often reach for a weight and do some curls or some lateral raises or something, or get down on the floor and do some hip stretching or some back exercises, since those are areas that I struggle with all the cycling that I do. And somehow it's satisfying to know that I'm now taking better care of myself than I have for a long time. The future of our mobility and our independence is probably largely in our hands. The more effort we put in now, the more likely it is that we're going to reap the benefits in the future. I don't want to become somebody else's responsibility. I want to be looking after myself for many years to come. So that's it. Get out of that chair and start exercising. Thank you for watching.